Hello and welcome to a Blaseball Statistical History, a look at the Hawai'i Fridays development across the expansion era. The Fridays didn't have a great time in the expansion era, with their highest finish being 10th in the league. Their average ranking was 15th. However, as they head into the expansion era, their rotation is definitely above average for stars, and they have one of the great batters of the discipline era in Nagomi McDaniel, which pays off for them as they finish third in the league and enter their first ever postseason, which they are knocked out of in the division series by the Garages. They lose a win to Black Hole, but have double the positive blood rains to negative. Then there are changes, as Nan moves through the lineup, sending lead-off batter Fletcher Yamamoto to the Lovers, and when they leave, sending back Bates Bentley from the Millennials. The rotation also gets a feedback, as Jalen Hotdog Fingers arrives to send James Morra to the Magic. In the election, they use their wills to give Jacob Winner the Flippers modification and infuse Alyssa Harrell. But the Garages want Nagomi and send back Guia Griffin. The rotation has improved with Jalen's arrival, and whilst the standout power of Nagomi has gone, Bates is a stronger lead-off batter. And the Fridays maintain their standing, finishing fourth and heading into another postseason. This time they make it to the League Series before being knocked out by the Crabs. They appear in the seasonal reading and gain the modification Sinking Ship as a result. They gain 2 wins from Sun 2, but give one back to Black Hole. Spears Taylor has a positive blood rain before being swept elsewhere with Juice Collins. Then 2 more feedbacks see Jalen heading to the Mechanics and Gabriel Griffith swapping with the Lovers' Yosh Carpenter. This season, they use their wills to infuse Alyssa Harrell again and swap Jalen's replacement into the shadows for Fenry Marlowe. Alyssa is now a very strong batter, but the rotation is suffering from all of these changes, which means the Fridays drop back down to more familiar territory in 18th. 4 players are swept elsewhere, but 3 get parties. Spears Taylor has another positive blood rain, which is followed up with an allergic peanut reaction. In a confusing trade, the Fridays take Baldwin Breadwinner from the Crabs, who they had sent over just before the Crabs ascended, but send Alyssa Harrell back in return. They also take Valentine Games from the Tacos. The Dale revoke Beck Whitney, who joins the lineup, and the Fridays win a blessing, as Spears Taylor gets the modification Solo Stroll. Valentine and Beck are great additions to the team, but Baldwin is a worse batter than Alyssa was. Despite the new batter power, they hold steady at 18th, even with an extra win from Sun 2. 6 of their players are observed, but nothing comes of it, and there are 12 parties to be had. The election sees them use their wills to alternate Baldwin Breadwinner, who gains the Parasite modification, and to move Juice Collins to the rotation. They also win 2 blessings, as Jacob Winner gains an affinity for crows, and the whole lineup gets a batting boost. Juice is a good addition to the rotation, and the lineup now has so many stars. But it doesn't convert to performance, as the Fridays only move up to 13th. They lose a win to Black Hole Weather, and the lineup gets reverbed. But in a very quiet season, there are only 3 parties. Wills focus on the rotation, as Baldwin Breadwinner is drafted in, and the weakest pitcher Fenry Marlowe gets a transfusion. The Georges vote to steal Montgomery Bullock and send back Mordecai Kingbird, who then gains an item via a blessing. The lineup and rotation are now equal in size. Valentine and Beck remain standout players, but the rest of the lineup is struggling to keep up, while the rotation is inconsistent. But somehow this works out, as they move up to 8th and head into another postseason, making it all the way to the final before being swept out by the Tacos. They gain 2 wins from Sun 2. There are 2 positive and 2 negative blood rains, and 2 trips to elsewhere. But Christian Coombs takes a more permanent trip to the Mechanics, sending back Lady Matsuyama in their place. The first 2 consumer attacks the team face are both defended against. Then the team regain Alyssa Harrell, who appears as an attractor and is batted in by Spears Taylor. In the election, there's a transfusion for Juice Collins, and Beck Whitney's Roman mod is re-rolled. With blessings, the stakes steal Baldwin Breadwinner, but the Fridays gain an item. the lineup rounds out a little, and there is more power in the rotation, which pushes them up again to 6th. The postseason sees them eliminated in the division series by the Mechanics. A quiet season for the team sees no wins gained from the weather. Josh Carpenter faces a consumer attack, and Spears Taylor makes a positive blood rain. The Fridays get 3 gifts: soul patches, getting the home field advantage, and gaining an item. They use their wills to infuse Melton Campbell and to move Alyssa Harrell back onto their lineup. Then, in the 3rd item blessing in a row, Alyssa gains a skateboard. The team is very strong, but has one noticeable weakness each for the lineup and rotation. Unfortunately for the Fridays, in Season 19 being good is bad, and they finish 23rd in the league. They still get wild-carded into the postseason, but don't make it out of that round due to the Lovers. They join the rest of the league in the seasonal reading, as Spears Taylor becomes a Seeker, and also has a positive blood rain. The team gain 2 wins from Sun 2, but lose 1 to Black Hole. A feedback sends Bates Bentley to the Lovers in exchange for Don Mitchell, who then has 2 of the 5 parties, but also 1 of the 4 trips to elsewhere. Then on day 99, due to being named an MVP 5 times, Valentine Games becomes legendary and is removed from the team to the vault. 3 more gifts means another set of soul patches, another item, and becoming life of the party. Finishing so low does mean 3 wills for the team, which they use to move Mordecai Kingbird into the Shadows, and then onto the Shadow lineup, as well as swapping Alyssa Harrell for the Firefighters' Gabriel Griffith. To top it off, they win 3 blessings, as the Shadows get a pitching adjustment and gain sunglasses, and Spears Taylor has a Moxie boost. Despite the loss of Valentine, the lineup still has a lot of strength. With things back to normal, the Fridays continue their streak, finishing 4th in the league and heading into another postseason. This time, they are knocked out in the division series by the Stakes. They gain 2 wins from the weather, but then face 3 negative blood rains, and Yaslin Statter Jr. has an allergic peanut reaction. 2 players return from elsewhere, and Beck leaves, but returns the same day. The Fridays get 3 gifts, all of which are items. They use their wills to move Yaslin to the Shadows and infuse Cordula Standlake. The Firefighters reverse the trade from the previous season, sending Alyssa back, and the team win 2 blessings, moving Stevenson Heat to the lineup and giving Don Mitchell the slow build modification. A team restructuring sees a shorter rotation, which is consistent in its power, and a lineup that has a big gap in the middle, surrounded by some of the strongest batters in the league, which grants the Fridays yet another top 3 finish. In this postseason, they make it to the League Series before being eliminated by the Crabs. The weather grants them 8 wins and an equal positive to negative blood rain. 3 short trips to elsewhere occur, then feedback makes 2 swaps with the Lovers, as Percival Wheeler replaces Jacob Winner and King Roland replaces Juice Collins. Don and Beck both face instability, but survive. The team are granted 3 more gifts, all modifications, which make them fireproof and late to the party, as Stevenson Heat becomes ambitious. In the election, their wills are used to swap Don Mitchell into the rotation, and Josh Carpenter replaces them in the lineup, as well as infusing Melton Campbell. The Lovers reclaim Percival Wheeler, but send back previously feedback player Bates Bentley. And then the Fridays win a blessing, allowing them to acquire Nicholas Mora from the Moist Talkers. Don Mitchell is a great addition to the rotation. But the Fridays go crashing down to 19th in the league, qualifying for the under bracket. They lose their way to the League Series before being eliminated by the Millennials. They gained 10 wins during the season and 2 in the postseason from the weather. They also gained a Shadows player from the Crabs, but sacrificed 1 to the Moist Talkers. Voicemail makes 3 changes to the lineup, and 4 players are swept elsewhere. 2 players are also unstable, but both survive, and the team gets 7 parties. The Fridays get 2 gifts, replicas of prehistory players in Claire Ballard and Fletcher Berger. They use their wills to move Alyssa Harrell into the Shadows, and to reverse a feedback from Season 21, as they send King Roland to the Lovers and reclaim Juice Collins. Then, in a chain of events, the Millennials take Beck Whitney and send back Castillo Turner, who is then claimed by the Flowers in exchange for Chorby Short. The Flowers then move Chorby to their shadows, reclaiming them and leaving the Fridays down a player. They also have to send a Shadows player to the garages, and Lady Matsuyama becomes skipping at the hands of the Worms. But the election turns in the Fridays' favour, as they win 5 blessings. They avoid subtraction, as one player on every other team gains that modification. They then split Don Mitchell's ego, reducing the risk of losing them to the vault, and alternate them, which loses even more from their ego. Whilst alternating, they also do the shadows and half the rotation. It looks rough for the Fridays, as they have lost their power players from the lineup, and whilst Don is still a great pitcher, the rotation is gappy, which is reflected in the Fridays staying near the bottom of the league. They qualify for another underbracket, which they leave in the wildcard round due to the pies. The weather shows up and grants them 15 wins in the season, as well as a positive blood rain, but it also sweeps 4 players elsewhere. Fax Machine makes 6 pitcher changes, and Voicemail makes 1 batter change. The Thieves Guild also makes some player changes, as 1 Shadows player is lost to the Breath Mints, but 2 more are gained from the garages. Lady Matsuyama is unstable, but survives it, and the team throw 4 parties to celebrate. Just 2 gifts this season, as the Fridays become early to the party and gain an item. In the election, they are the only team to opt for the Squiddish party favour, but they join the rest of the league in becoming under review. They win a blessing, re-rolling Lady Matsuyama's pitching for the worse. They also have to send a Shadows player to the Tacos. After the election, they gain a new pitcher, as Alejandro Leaf roams from the Moist Talkers, and a new batter, as Parker Macmillan roams from the Vault. Parker is actually a pretty good addition, but the rotation has suffered. In Season 24, the Fridays finish 7th in their new division of the Horizon, and 23rd of the original 24 ILB teams. They are granted 2 wins from Sun 30, and Fax Machine makes a rotation change. Cordula Standlake is observed, and faces 2 consumer attacks that they defend against. The Thieves Guild steal a Shadows player from the Millennials, and Castillo Turner swings by with 5th base from the garages, and heads on to the pies. Then Parker Macmillan, who joined the team at the election, roams away, making the team unstable, and on day 12, they are incinerated. They are greeted by the Monitor, who welcomes them to the trench. Due to having chosen Squiddish, the Fridays are replaced in the league by pre-history team, the Carolina Queens. But Season 24 is not over for the Fridays, as during the late siesta, the Monitor quit, leaving the Hall of Flame unattended, so the Fridays were able to leave, and headed straight for the expanding black hole, doing a skateboard trick over the smouldering remains of the coin on their way. During the expansion era, the Fridays faced 0 incinerations, but were incinerated as a team. They experienced the most feedbacks in mild low with 9, and also had 1 reverb. They benefited from 34 parties. 2 of their players had allergic peanut reactions, but they had the most positive blood rains of their division, with 12, to 8 negative. Black Hole was also more positive, with 15 to 10, and they got the most positive Sun 2s of the division, with 14 to 4. None of their players were shelled or redacted, but 5 were unstable and 7 observed. They didn't have a night shift, but had 4 voicemails and 7 fax machines. Their Thieves Guild stole them 4 Shadows players, but conceded 2. 26 players were swept elsewhere, with the longest stay being 50 days. They gained 31 wins from Sun 30 and only faced 5 consumer attacks, the fewest in mild low. Their Arcana, the High Priestess, appeared in 2 seasonal readings. There were only 3 seasons when the Fridays didn't appear in a postseason. They competed in 7 over brackets, once as a wild card, as well as 2 under brackets. They were given 16 gifts, used 23 wills, and won 18 blessings. At the end of the era, the Fridays have become rogue. Their lineup is consistent, and the rotation only has one real weakness. But when compared with some of the other teams, the amount of star power is nothing special. Thank you for joining me for another Blaxplanation. I'll be back with more Blaseball fun and facts soon, but until then, rejoice, play ball.